Okay guys, welcome. So now we're going to be looking at a little handstand walk tutorial. I'm sorry if I look a little sweaty. I've just finished the Progrm MASH and it is summer and it is hot. But we have Jacqueline who's going to be demonstrating some of the movements. And just like we looked at with our ring muscle up video, we just want to make sure that we have some prerequisite strength. So obviously with a handstand walk, the ability to keep your arms straight whilst supporting all of your body weight is the key idea. So what we're going to do, Jack is just going to start on the floor here. And as you can see, really, this is actually the first position. You know, obviously, with time under tension, even this can start to get quite taxing. So what we look for is that the elbows stay straight, and we should actually be able to feel through all of our hands. So what she can start doing is actually taking the shoulders a little forward, rocking a little back. She can then rock side to side. And you can actually see how you get different activation of the different muscles as they start to engage in the different positions. Okay? So what we'd actually recommend when you start is trying to build up to a minute in this straight arm plank position. Once you can start to do that comfortably, that's time to move on to the next stage of strength. One thing that you also see is that the wrists, we're not used to having our hands weight bearing. And that means that the wrists can take on a lot of stress, a lot of tension. So one of the things that we recommend, and we've done separate videos on this, but this is our wrist flow video, and this is to try and build up capacity and strength in the wrists. So as you can see, we're just working through different aspects. We have the wrist going into extension, onto the fists, and onto the back of the wrists. And you can do this with as little or as much tension going through the wrists as possible. If Jacqueline sits further back, she has less tension. If she sits further forward, she has more tension. And that's what we're trying to achieve through these positions. So this is a great way of just making sure the wrists are comfortable as we go through. Okay. We're going to look at one more position, and this is going through into our hollow body. And the reason is, one, this is for body awareness, and also for the positional strength as well. So we use this drill all the time, and really it lays the foundations for a lot of the gymnastic work we have to do in CrossFit. So all Jack is going to do is you're going to keep her hands, we're going to do the first stage, so her hands are going to be down by the hips. And all she's going to do, exactly, legs are going to be up at 90 degrees. And you can see Jacqueline does a sit-up. So she compresses her chest. And this is a very important movement, this compression strength here. And what that will force her to do is the low back to go onto the floor. From here now, she's going to let the legs lower down as far as she can. And now she's going to take the arms up whilst maintaining the compression. Then she's going to relax, and she's going to go through that process again. So she comes up here. So now just relax the upper body, keep the legs up. So you can see as she does this sit-up movement, this will compress the midline and push the low back into the floor. From here we make it more challenging by lowering the legs, and we make it a bit more challenging again on the arms. So this is our positional awareness, positional strength 1. Now Jack is going to roll over onto her front. And this looks quite simple, but actually can be quite challenging. So what now Jacqueline's going to do, you can see her low back's in extension here. She's actually going to take it into a flexed position. So you can see we haven't practiced in a little while, so Jacqueline's a little out of position, but there we go. So you see the low back here now is flexed, and just let it relax. Extended, flex, extended, flex. And we're doing this with the core. We're not pushing in our knees, we're not using our hands. We're literally using our core to get the low back flexed. And this is very unique to the handstand position, and so a very useful drill. Okay. So all of the stuff so far, we've not actually been inverted. What we now need to do is start getting comfortable going upside down. And this is a huge fear factor for a lot of people. And we're going to start this process very simply by wall walks. Now, the wall walk doesn't actually require a huge amount of strength. It requires just more being confident in the positions. If you can hold a straight arm plank for a minute comfortably, then this should be no problem. So Jack's just going to start in the same plank position that we were just in. Her feet are going to go onto the wall. She's just going to take slow steps up the wall. And right now, just hold it there. So right now, Jacqueline's come very close to the wall. And this is where the balance becomes a factor. So actually, when you're starting this out and just start to walk down and stop, so you actually, the further away you are from the wall, the more control you're going to have. So actually, just marking a line on the floor and walking to that line and starting to progress each day is a great way of starting to build up. And then Jack is just going to come down and relax down. So the wall walk, a very classic exercise. We often use it as a scaling option. But this is something that is really useful for building up into the handstand. So now we're going to start looking at how we get into a handstand position without going into the wall facing. So what Jacqueline's actually going to do is she's just going to get comfortable and she's just going to get used to leaning forward and taking the weight onto her hands. So literally she just does kick-ups, back down. And you notice that because she never takes, in this instance, the right leg up, she never has that fear of going over. And so that right leg being there acts as a form of control. And I'd spend at least a week or 2 weeks with an athlete who has those prerequisite strengths, just getting them comfortable with this before they move on to the next stage. The next stage is obviously going onto the wall, and Jacqueline does exactly the same thing. She kicks up, and she's just going to leave the right leg low. So she just feels that left leg start to kick the wall, leave the right leg low. So leave the right leg low, please, Jacqueline. Exactly. So that left leg going up to touch the wall and that right leg being low allows for a lot more control. And then what we start to do now is bring the right leg up to touch the wall. So this is kind of the final stage of our kick up, and then come back down. And back down. And it's one of these skills that once you have it, you realize how easy it can be, kind of like riding a bike. Like once you've got that skill, it becomes very easy to maintain it. And actually, as you'll notice, just holding it for a few seconds doesn't require a lot of strength. It's more confidence in that position. So we've now had the prerequisite strength. We've done some wall walks, and now we can kick up into our handstand. What Jacqueline's actually going to do now is we're going to go back to the wall walk, and Jacqueline's just going to come onto the plates. So this starts to become a bit more advanced when we're comfortable kicking up into the handstand. So Jacqueline walks up, and now what she's going to do is she's going to step onto the step and back down. So as you can see now, we're starting to add some skills into this position. Jacqueline's chosen 20 kilo plate. You can obviously choose like a very thin 5 kilo plate or whatever it may be. And really what we're starting to do is get comfortable transferring our weight from hand to hand, which is obviously going to be useful for the handstand walking. And she relaxes down. Okay, so our first kind of advanced drill for the handstand walking. One thing that's also important is that the person starts to become aware when you're upside down. And you guys who've been upside down will notice this, is that actually it's very hard to know where your body is. You get very disorientated. Your proprioceptive awareness just disappears because we're not used to being inverted. And actually one thing that can be very useful to practice, Jack is just going to walk up. And now what she's going to do, it's the same basic drill we did on the floor. She's going to try and control her low back. So extension, flexion, extension, flexion, extension, flexion, extension, flexion. Okay, and relax. So these body awareness drills whilst upside down can help start you master the handstand. You just get more and more comfortable in that position being upside down. Okay. So now we're going to start looking at walking. And as I say, this might take someone, a few weeks, a few months, depending on your ability. But I just make sure that all of these stages are in place first before you start walking. It will actually mean if the foundations are there, the progress will be much quicker for you. So all we're going to do now, I'm going to act as a spotter. You don't necessarily, you can use a wall for this, but we're going to demonstrate with a spotter, so you can grab a friend to help you out. But Jacqueline's just going to kick up to the handstand. And so all I'm going to do, I obviously offer her support in this position. She'll be comfortable there because she's been with the wall before. And I'm just going to now move away, and Jacqueline's just going to slowly walk towards me. And I'm going to, again, catch her, and she's going to kick down. So all we're doing now is requiring the athlete to walk a little bit. Sometimes the athlete might have a bit of fear, so we can keep holding on to them. And we can start to increase that distance bit by bit by bit. Now, as with most things gymnastics, the kind of pure Olympic-style gymnastics doesn't typically apply to CrossFit. You know, the handstand walk, we're not necessarily looking for this feet together, perfectly straight line. Actually, what we start to see in CrossFit, kind of like the kipping style, is that, you know, having that slightly more arch or even bending the knees can actually add to the speed of the walking with the hands. So now we're just going to look at the steps. So Jacqueline's actually going to demonstrate a handstand walk. Let's just walk between these two lines. Yeah. And the one thing that we want to look for is Jacqueline starts to take slow, controlled steps. One thing that people do is they end up taking these huge steps. You know, obviously, like if we, you know, it's not too dissimilar to walking in the sense that, you know, if I'm taking these long strides, it obviously gets hard for me to walk. Whereas, you know, normally I have a certain cadence and actually my feet stay relatively under my body. And it should be the same with the handstand walking. If I overreach, what happens is I tend to just fall back down to where I was, because it's very hard to keep the momentum of the legs with a long reach as well. So Jackie's just going to show it once more. So it's short, controlled steps. And ultimately, this will give us a lot more control. Even when the athlete starts to get more confident, the steps may get slightly bigger, but really it's the cadence that starts to increase. So we mentioned that with the spotter, it's obviously easier, especially if the spotter has experience in people with handstands, because they can help guide you and it is a little bit safer. However, you know, not all of us have spotters. So again, it's important that you have that prerequisite strength and that you're comfortable even doing the plate walks, so you know that you can handle this. But what we're going to start doing now, if we just have the wall available, is Jacqueline may make a slight mark. So she puts a slight line on the floor. She's going to kick up from that position, and then she's just going to walk into the wall. Yeah? And obviously, you can start to come out further and further with that. Good, and then back down. And then also another option is for Jacqueline to walk away from the wall. So she goes into the wall walk again. So she actually starts facing. And now what she can start to do is actually start to feel that weight lift off. So we call these scissor kicks. So she takes one leg away, one leg back. And then what she can start to do from here, obviously if she takes the feet more away, she then starts to walk and come down. And all of these things are just playing with balance of the handstand. So there's obviously more advanced things, like, you know, we've got the ramp here that we will help you guys through. However, making sure that all of these foundations are in place first of all is very important. We hope that this helped. We also have a basics gymnastics program which you can find in the links below. If you have any comments on this video, put them in and we will get back to you. Thanks for watching.